Hello everyone and welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed that first segment. Before we get into the second, I do want to remind you yet again that if you do feel so inclined, keep on making yourselves available to the Super Chat, Super Thanks, and Super Stickers features here on YouTube. They're a great way to interact with the show. Great way to get your questions, comments, or concerns on air. And most importantly, it really helps support the show, the network, me and my fellow podcasters as well, and all the good things in between. So anything you do for the network, including tips and donations, is greatly appreciated beforehand. And especially I appreciate all the comments about fantasy football that you leave. Without further ado, let's jump right into our second segment for today's show, which is more of a prop bets look ahead for Thursday Night Football. And all the prop bets that I've garnered here are prop bets about certain players who I feel are improved situations or just feel like the right kind of bet to place on this game. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting off with quarterback Dak Prescott. Now this bet kind of feels weird to talk about, but I think he's going to hit the under in terms of his passing yards, under 266.5 passing yards. And the reason why I think this is because I'm starting to believe that Dak Prescott isn't necessarily the problem because of his contract. He's the problem because Mike McCarthy's kind of keeping him in this limited world where he's too honed in on trying to make him and CD seem like the stars, when in fact I feel like there could be many stars, or hidden gems at the very least, in this Dallas offense. I feel kind of weird about, Mike McCarthy not necessarily trusting the run game as much. Yes, the run game in and of itself has been atrocious over the past couple of weeks. As thank you for the tip, Meryl Shepard, my mother, leaving a tip, thank you so much. But at the end of the day here, Dak just feels to me like he's either going to have a game where he's going through the motions or he's going to have a big game. Last week was kind of somewhere in between. As you know, he was trying to lead a comeback attempt, and he kind of had to be the hero and play hero ball in that game. But this game, there just feels like a weird disconnect. We're going to talk about him in a stardom cinema segment in a better light, but right now, the light that I see Dak Prescott in is just a very kind of Jekyll and Hyde performer right now. I'm not necessarily confident that he'll always put up good stats, but I can't ignore the fact that he has the opportunity to. So Dak Prescott's just a very weird quarterback to place a prop bet on. In the future, you might want to look at that. But for this game, I just feel like there will come a moment in time where something or other, some kind of barrier between himself and this offense will build up. And I don't know. I just feel like that seems like a right bet or a safe bet to place. In terms of his receiver, though, I think he's going to hit the over. CD, he's always going to have big games. And I think that, CD Lamb is just someone that you can always rely on, even in a slump, to kind of break through and help this offense. I'm less worried about him than I am Dak because, he's just catching the balls Dak throws to him, not, having to almost play for the both of you. So CD, I feel like, seems like a safer bet for the Cowboys, even though I want to see more out of this offense. I feel like Dak is going to have moments where he's really honed in on feeding him the ball, and there will be some head-scratching moments from Dak. But CD, that's the least of his problems. He's just looking to get open, get the ball, score touchdowns, put up points for Dallas. And I think he'll do that very well in this game. That's for minus 110. I feel like this is the best bet in terms of who I feel like will produce for the Cowboys offense immediately. Because at the end of the day, yes, I could have mentioned Jake Ferguson's name. I think that he's someone who has the ability to score at any time. One of the better, when he's, incorporated fully into this offense, red zone tight ends in the league. He's not the best yardage guy, but that's more due to Mike McCarthy's offense than his kind of situation. But at the end of the day, it just feels like the center of attention for this offense right now has to be Dak and CD. And it has to be about the ensuing concerns people may have whether it be just the overall structure of the offense or whether they are frequent bettors and looking to place bets on this offense. It's just kind of mind-boggling to me that no other player, I feel like, can be warranted to be successful in terms of a betting perspective on this team, because I can't say effective right now that Jake Ferguson will put up X amount of yards or score X amount of touchdowns or score at any time in this game, because it just feels like it's the Dak and CD show right now. That's all I can really say. And until I see otherwise, until I see Mike McCarthy kind of settle into this idea of getting every single one of his players involved, then I can't confidently sit here and tell you, okay, this is the bet you should place on a guy like Jake Ferguson. This is the kind of bet you should place on a guy like Dowdle or Elliott or Brandon Cooks even. So for now, I feel like it's cliche to talk about these two players, but it feels appropriate for this game too, because it is a divisional game, and you kind of feel like they are still a superior team at this moment, and you never know who or what will step up for either of these teams. So I'm very confident in these two bets, though, at the very least. On the Giants side of things, if there's one player I feel very confident about in terms of a betting perspective, it would have to be Malik Neighbors. I think that Brown's game really showed he's ready to be a star in this offense. He's ready to step up for Daniel Jones, for Brian Dable most importantly, and be the player that this offense desperately needs. He's not going to fix all the Giants' problems on the offensive side of the football, but he is fixing some of them. At least he has that rapport with Daniel Jones, like I said prior, that needs to happen in order for Daniel Jones to rely on him even more. But be wary of what that could mean for the overall offense. It can't just be about Jones and Neighbors. It has to be about Jones, Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, Devin Singletary, Jalen Hyatt, and everyone else in between as well. And so Malik Neighbors over 69.5 yards seems like a nice bet because of what we know he can bring to the Giants. And we know that Daniel Jones will most likely look to him as his first target more often than not. But as the season progresses, be careful betting on Malik Neighbors because it's a dangerous line to kind of cross here. At minus 115, I will safely assume that in this game, the Giants will try to keep that rhythm of Jones and Neighbors going, so I expect them to hit this yardage total. But in more and more games, against tougher and tougher opponents, I feel like there needs to be a diversification of this Giants offense, and I wouldn't feel as comfortable as a result should we see that more from Daniel Jones, Brian Dable, and this Giants offense in coming weeks. But for now, from what I see of Malik Neighbors, he's ready to take that step, ready to help Daniel Jones, but just be wary of him as that guy in that offense. But in terms of his quarterback, I feel like his quarterback's going to hit the under in this game. At 198.5 yards, yes, it's kind of a low total, and it kind of feels like a game where Daniel Jones will try and play the dink and dunk game to get his yardage in that regard, try and control the clock and the ball as much as possible. But he's not someone who I guarantee will put up big yardage week in, week out. He is someone who, more often than not, is looking to protect the football now. And at the very least, he now has someone in Malik Neighbors that can make that happen. But if you want to get the best out of both of them, as Tap to Learn says, Zimmer defense shaky as all get out. Yeah, I can see that. But at the end of the day, I feel like this offense for the Giants is just as shaky. I would love to say that Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors connection fixes all their problems, but I can't get past the fumbling of Devin Singletary. I can't get past the shakiness of that O-line. I can't get past the fact that, Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Hyatt have struggled to become nice route runners to supplement Malik Neighbors' vertical threat and his strength in the air. So right now, yes, I feel like the ball can be moved from this Cowboys defense, but in what way is going to matter, because right now, Zimmer is someone who at least has pieces that can slow down opposing offenses. And the Giants right now just have one piece that they can rely upon on the offensive end to keep the tempo of their offense going. So until I see more pieces that supplement that kind of rhythm that Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors are trying to build, then I can't say confidently that the Giants offense will have a certain tempo to it in this game. So that's why I'm taking the under here for Daniel Jones. But it's a good point because the defense of the Cowboys is an integral part of how this game will play out, and it has been shaky. It's been very disappointing to start the year, but it's kind of the same old story, right, that we get with the Dallas Cowboys defensively. They can't necessarily stop the run. Teams exploit that, like we saw with the Ravens, like we saw with the Saints, and overall, I just feel like the Saints and the Ravens are at a better place to do that than the Giants. Is Brian Daboll comfortable with putting the ball out in Singletary's hands 25 to 30 touches a game? I don't think so. And I don't think he's right in doing that in this game. I feel like you got to work with what you have and work with what you're comfortable with. And what I feel like the Giants are comfortable with now is feeding the ball to their wide receiver one, Malik Neighbors. And I'm not saying that it could be to positive effect in this game. I'm just saying that it's going to matter in terms of Daniel Jones' confidence. It's kind of a cycle here for the Giants. What's more important right now? Daniel Jones' confidence or the overall offense? I think Daniel Jones' confidence takes precedence first, and then you can build from there. Because I would rather see Daniel Jones willing to protect the football, willing to acknowledge Malik Neighbors as his wide receiver one, and most importantly, trying to keep this offense on schedule than, having this all crumble to pieces after such a positive result against Cleveland. So, while I think that the under will hit, look for him to go early and often to Malik Neighbors, and that connection, at the very least for the Giants, will try and keep the ball moving. But let me know what you think in the comments. Tap to Learn made an excellent point. But we have to take a quick break. On the other side, we take a little bit of a respite from talking Thursday Night Football and switch over to my personal rankings when we're continuing them with the wide receivers, the guys who I think will shine best in Week 4 and Sunday's slate. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking for your daily fix of